All right, hello again. I didn't plan on making this video, but after watching the UEFA Super Cup game, I felt like I really wanted to get some of my, thoughts across, my reactions, just because of how good of a game it was. Took some notes, as I always do when I was watching the games or watching the game, and I thought it'd be nice to go over, kind of in a video. So, first of all, what a game. What a first half from Tottenham. I'm going to be talking a lot about Tottenham more than PSG this game because they impressed a lot. I feel like they definitely deserved the win. But PSG being such a good side, you give them like 15 minutes to really dominate, and they're going to completely change the script of the game. And then obviously they went on to win on penalties. So congratulations to PSG. Good fighting through adversity. And I think the substitutions that Luis Enrique made were huge. But I think the way he started, this experiment that he tried was just not it. So here's the starting 11 that PSG went for. The back line, no changes. Obviously, they have Chevalier now in goal, actually, instead of Donnarumma. He had a pretty decent game, I won't lie. He was decent. He made some big saves. Mendes, Pacho, Marquinhos, Hakimi, nothing new there. This is where the change was. So, obviously, João Neves is suspended, so he couldn't be played. So, Warren Zaire-Emery came in for him. But then Fabian Ruiz didn't start. It was instead Desiree Doué. And then the front line was Barcola, Dembele, Kvaratskhelia. And I think what Enrique was trying to do is kind of have how he likes those rotations in the front line constantly. So I think his thought process was like, what if I just have a free runner, And I think he thought that the Spurs midfield wouldn't give him as much challenge as they did. And you can just have like a free guy always in between the lines, Say you need a overload on the left-hand side, you have him overload over here. Say you need an overload on the right-hand side, so you need an overload in the middle. When Dembele drops, somebody can go in. I think that was the game plan that Enrique wanted with Doué starting, but it just didn't work at all in that first half. They were held to 0 shots on target. They did have more of the ball, but if you were watching the game, Spurs were running absolutely all over them. Here's the lineup that Spurs went with. It was a 3-5-2. And I think what I'm noticing, especially with like the Chelsea game, this game is PSG struggle against sides that are like in the midfield more physically dominant than them and bring the game to them. Like Chelsea, I think is a better example just because they had better players. Like not only were they more physically dominant with Caicedo in the middle, with Reece James in the middle, with Neto, who's like, a strong winger on the ball. Like it's hard to dispossess him. And then you have Levi Colwill at the back. Like their midfield was not only extremely technically sound, but also physically more dominant, and I think they just got overran. And also, teams that press the first line of buildup on PSG really see dividends in the game. So in this case, it was Jet Spence and Pedro Porro pressing alongside Richarlison and Kudus. And then for those second balls that when the midfielder wanted to drop in, Bentancur was there, Sarr was there, and Palhinha was like kind of an anchor over here. What a game. Like I want to highlight two. I have like a couple players I want to highlight, but one I want to say like just off the bat, Jed Spence and Pape Sarr. Oh my goodness, they were incredible this game. And that's the main reason why I really wanted Spurs to get this one, just because they played a tremendous game. Kudus as well. Kudus and Bentancur were also really good this game. So that's kind of the lineup that Spurs went from. So there were a multitude of things that kind of led to that first half demise for PSG and them going down 1-0 and then eventually early in the second half 2-0 down. Is one, obviously the poor midfield setup. With Doué in the middle, you're short on a man over here. So when they want to build up in that, first line, it was really just like Vitinha kind of dropping in, and Zaire-Emery didn't have that connection with Vitinha to help him in the build. So it'd be Vitinha dropping in, and Spurs would swarm, create overloads, and then win the ball back up in high positions. They won the ball in high positions so frequently this game. Their fullbacks were being pinned back. Nuno Mendes doesn't really join the attack much. When they're building up, he's kind of like when the ball's in this area for PSG, like in the opposition half, that's when you'll see Nuno Mendes kind of bomb up here. But basically, they were, PSG were trying to build up like this, and then you have Vitinha drop in. Doué would not, they'd stay high, and then Zaire Emery would be like that, like line breaker. But then it was so easy for them to just swarm over here. You have Vitinha dropping in. You already have like three guys surrounding the ball over here, and the Bentancur would just follow Vitinha, and then you win the ball in this high position. It left gaps, but PSG didn't have the midfield in the first half to cover those gaps. Like Doué was so high. Zaire Emery was the only man over here, and when Dembele dropped in, it was just ineffective because then their back line was just so fast paced. Like you have Van de Ven and Romero that would just quickly just step up, and cover and make up for those spaces. And then when PSG did have the off chance where they were well up the pitch, it was a great team effort overall from Spurs. But they would drop into this 5-3-2 low block, and they just clogged the middle. So anytime PSG wanted to create in this middle, they're just overran and they couldn't do shit. And then Hakimi was being locked up by Jed Spence because in these sort of situations where they were in this 5-3-2, they could easily double up, So Kvaratskhelia, if he drifted in, they could just double up on the fullback, or they could double up on the winger. They were never creating overloads, PSG, in the first half on these wide positions. And then obviously no box presence, so they can't do anything. Doué was just ineffective. So Tottenham bringing the game to PSG and also pressing that high with physicality was really, really a bad thing for PSG. Also, another thing I did want to mention is PSG were just sloppy in that first half. Like, you could tell they were rusty. They haven't played. Like, this is obviously a big competitive match. They haven't played in a while. So they weren't doing the basic things right. So, like, you'd see, like, Nuno Mendes made quite a few errors in just simple passes. So did Marquinhos. Pacho was caught out sometimes. I think Pacho did have a pretty decent game, though. And yeah, Vitinha I saw making some, errors. Dembele was good, I think, in the game. His shot was just not on the whole game. Like, he couldn't really guide a shot, any shots on target. I think he had like 2 chances in that first half that he kind of should have done better on. So yeah, they were sloppy, and I think that does pay. That is a big reason. And I think if they played Chelsea in this same game, Chelsea would win the way that PSG played. I think Thomas Frank kind of wanted the same. He used Chelsea as like a blueprint, but obviously they don't have the players the quality of Chelsea. But I think he still did a phenomenal job. So yeah, and then what Spurs would do then from this sort of position, they'd win the ball back and then it'd immediately look wide. Porro would push wide, but then also Kudus, and they would just create these overloads on the, out wide, and then Sarr and Bentancur would kind of be that half space guy. Sarr would kind of push in. Richarlison would then be like a lone floating line. He could be in these positions. Jet Spence would make so many overlapping runs, and Palhinha. We know from his Fulham days, I think he's gonna shine again. I think he didn't have the best time at Bayern just because he didn't get the game time and all that. And I think obviously it's a much different league, much different system, much different team. But now he's back in the Prem playing on like a side like Spurs. He's gonna return back to like what he was known for at Fulham, which is like being a ball winner, a great high percentage tackler, and he was really good at those things today. So him as the anchor, and then the pace of Van de Ven or Romero allowed Spurs to push up higher. And their 2 goals I want to talk about, they capitalize on the fact that they have the physical advantage from set pieces. Both of their goals were from set pieces. One of them was like a free kick from here played into the box, and then I think the other one was like similar area somewhere around here. Free kick just played into the box, the back post, and Romero headed it in. Van de Ven got the rebound off of Chevalier's save on one of them. So yeah, that's where their goals came from. Yeah, I think one question that I actually wrote here is, with this game being so open in the first half, I wonder how Spurs are gonna deal with playing against low blocks next season. Like, I don't know if they have that. I think their biggest need is still like a creative 10 or like a creative 10, maybe like left half space player. Like, I think of Eze a lot, and I don't know how feasible that is for Tottenham with his price tag, but if they can get like a player like Eze in this side, I think Spurs can really, really push the top of the table this upcoming season. I think Frank has instilled a really good system, a really good philosophy. What we saw from Tottenham is a full team effort, which I really liked. They were all playing for each other. Bentancur had this one run where he's like up here. He ran 40 yards across the pitch. Kvaratskhelia and Hakimi had an overload over here, and he just tackled the ball out of play, stopping a full transition and allowing Spurs to get back. Like, they play for each other. And this side, if they can get like a 10, they are going to be really, really dangerous, I feel. So yeah, the fullbacks, obviously, I think I talked about Jet Spence and Porro, kind of how they wanted to play out on the widths over here with the fullbacks pushing up. They were tremendous today, Porro and Spence. I really like Spence. Obviously, I highlighted that. But Sarr, one thing I wanted to say about Pepe Sarr is he was so good at just winning the ball and like being everywhere. You know, he was just so sharp on the ball. It's the best game I've seen him play for Spurs, definitely. And I think he's really growing into that center mid role for them. And him and Palhinha and Bentancur, I think this is going to be a really good midfield for them. Whether they go with 4-3-3, whether they go with this exact like 3-5-2. If they want just two in the midfield, maybe a 4-2-3-1. They have a lot of flexibility there to find a system that kind of works best for the philosophies that Frank wants. But all the blueprints are all there, which I really like to see for Spurs. Kudus was also phenomenal. Kudus is going to be a star player for Spurs this season. I think if you watch West Ham, you kind of knew the talent that Kudus had, but now I think he'll be able to do it on a regular basis. I think one thing, he just needs to improve his final third output. There were like moments where he beat Nuno Mendes really well, but then his crosses would be poor. Some of his decision making was a bit shaky, but he was sharp today, and I think he's only going to get better with time. But now we can go on to PSG. So what did Enrique do to kind of fix the issues that he saw? So I think the biggest difference maker was taking Doué out for Fabian Ruiz. This just allowed more comfort in the midfield for PSG. They know that the system that they play, it's one of the best in the world, you know, and they won the Champions League for a reason. With Fabian Ruiz in the middle and Tottenham kind of backing off, I think it was a domino effect. I think what Chelsea did really well in that second half of the Club World Cup final is they didn't just sit back and allow PSG the ball. They still brought the game to PSG. They were still active. Tottenham, in the last like 20-ish minutes, started to sit back more, started to get comfortable in that low block and allowed PSG to play more. And that's just a recipe for disaster with a side that's this good. I understand why Spurs did it, and I don't fully knock them for doing so, but I wish they would have brought the game to PSG a bit more, been a bit more intense in those final 20 minutes, because I really think they could have seen it out and won the game. But yeah, Fabian Ruiz gave them so much more comfort in the build-up. It just allowed that extra man in the build-up when they were trying to build up from the back. It allowed Hakimi a lot more freedom, because with Ruiz pushing in now and Hakimi going high, he could then be paired with Zaire Emery and tuck in over here in these spaces, which, you know, we've known Hakimi has been doing this, you know, all season long. It's what he's good at. And then obviously Fabian Ruiz and Vitinha have like a great combination or great chemistry. They've been playing together all season. Looking at the substitutions here as well, Mbaye came on. I think he was all right. There was not much really to highlight there, but Gonzalo Ramos and Kang Lee also did super well coming on. 67th minute. I don't recall. Yeah, 67th minute was when Kang and Lee. Okay. I got you. 60th minute, Ruiz came off. 77th minute, got you. So we have. I'm just gonna put them in. We have Ramos come in, and I think Zaire Emery went off, if I'm correct. Yeah, Zaire Emery went off for Kang and Lee, and I'll leave Mbaye out of it. I don't really want to go too deep into like a full-on, you know, discussion over everything, or full-on tactical breakdown. So with Ramos, he was just like a pure 9 that helped PSG pierce the back line of like their of this 5-3-2 low block that yeah, Barcola for Mbaye. Yeah, I'll just put him on. Mbaye. So it was kind of like this with Ramos up top. These two as like forwards that like flip-flopped a lot, and obviously they were in wide spaces. They were just floating, and then Dembele was here, and then you had Vitinha and Ruiz up top. This is where Tottenham went wrong, I think. With that low block, they just allowed like PSG to be so high. They could commit like all these players, in and around the box. Hakimi over here combining with Vitinha, who was just creating. He started dictating play brilliantly. Vitinha in those latter stages of the game. If you watch like from minute 75 onward, everything was flowing through Vitinha, and he was really cooking. Dembele as well, now in a more of a wide role. I think he was being limited a lot in that center forward role because PSG didn't have those front rotations as much. So he would find himself dropping into the middle, but not like dropping into these spaces, but not being effective. Now out wide, he could, assume traditional winger roles and make an impact through there. And so I think Jet Spence was kind of overloaded over here with like three that could come into combination. Sometimes Lee came in here, and then we saw like the true PSG in those stages. And then they got 2 goals from it. A great strike from Lee, and then Dembele beat his man really well, crossed it into Ramos, who like, again, they just need a true 9. They just need players in the box. If they pinned Spurs back so much that they were just bound to get a goal. And yeah, that's kind of where Spurs went wrong. Overall, I would say, Spence, Sarr, Ruiz, Richarlison, and Bentancur were the 5 players that I really saw were like really, really good this game. They were the players I wanted to highlight a lot. If you're a Spurs fan, there's obviously it's a heartbreaking loss. Like you're up 2-0 and then you lose on penalties, 90+4. You concede. But I think the mistake was made when you kind of took your foot off the gas completely. Congrats to PSG. Enrique did well to make those changes and kind of see the game. I think if he made them earlier, PSG might have been able to see this game out earlier. But the cracks are starting to show with this PSG side, and I think innovation is necessary again with PSG. Not many changes, but subtle tweaks. I like what he tried here with Doué in the middle. It just shows that you're going for something new. It didn't work here, but you can see that Enrique is like a really forward-thinking manager. So yeah, all in all, congrats to PSG. Brilliant game. If you missed it, I would highly suggest watching it back. And yeah, excited for the season. It's 25-26 this year. All right, see y'all.